What a weird release for this game. Out a month before Mega Man X on the Super Famicom, Capcom left it for Nintendo to release in North America and completely neglected the PAL regions. Capcom eyed the future in the present, but that's all in the past. Anywho, though this eye for all those hot 16 bits over the puny 8 bits may portend of those hiccups in Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8, far too much ogling the shiny new toy would have them tossing the overgrown baby out with the dirty, overused bathwater. And the Blue Bomber will get some odd showings, like Mega Man Soccer, and 6 games in the next 21 years. I get this can be a ho-hum rinse and repeat sort of thing, but this is when creative types and the company at large ought to step up and go a level beyond, like Mega Man 7 did with introducing bass, like 11 did with the double gear system, like 6 did with altering Rush more into an adapter. Well, they had some lift with 7 and 11, but failed to capitalize on either one, either due to wanting to push Mega Man X, kinda difficult to do much when the future is made clear leading into the X series, or due to tepid response or interest not hitting the levels the company demands, which is sensible in the immediate, but forces them to rehash old stuff while relearning how to run every few years. Now, what am I talking about again? Mega Man Unlimited? Mega Man 2, The Power Fighters? Oh, no, that's right. Mega Man 6. How did they make this look so nice? Sure, there was a year gap in the release from 5 to 6, but the same with 4 and 5, and 5 looks worse than both of them. I don't know if that's due to the color palettes used or what, honestly, but we've climbed out of the dumb mess of 5 and into the colorful realm of 6. Also, neat to see 2 Robot Masters coming from US fans in Nightman and Windman. The theme of this game is rather clear-cut, with half of the Robot Masters being elemental or almost like the 4 seasons. That's more so me saying that than really a lot of the fan base. While the other 4 are warriors. As mentioned before, Rush gets converted into an adapter, which has some kinks to work out. And the setup for this is a complete out-of-the-blue Mr. X has a tournament for the most powerful robots, but it's really just Wily reprogramming them to fight for him. It's whatever. More importantly, our ears are graced by Yuko Takehara's compositions. This OST is fantastic all around, and might be my overall favorite of the Blue Bomber games. Unexpected plot twist, she composed Boomer Kuwanger's theme. And there's a neat evolution of that theme in a PS1 fighting game for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Weird, but weirdly neat. To start this off, outside of needing to get the jet and power adapters to access the quote-unquote true Robot Masters and collect the beat parts from the Weapons and Warriors division, you can theoretically start anywhere, especially if you don't care for beat or one secret handy item. That's nice in one hand, but boy does that make this batch of Robot Masters a bit flimsy. Also, to point out, they've provided different sort of stats and information for the Robot Masters, but it's pretty much like, whose line is it anyway? The points are made up and none of it really matters. Anyways, we're going to start off here with Blizzard Man. The ice here is no surprise, but the timed bombs feel a wee bit out of place. What you'll also notice is that the stages for this game are tight, a breeze, a quick jaunt, even for players who aren't great at these types of games, but are familiar with the concept and gameplay. The music is enjoyable, and for some reason gives me similar vibes to 5's music, maybe due to the instrumentation used for the sound. Either way, a somber tune for a safe stage. The fight is incredibly easy. Blizzard Man will ball up and roll at you, or summon the worst blizzard to have ever hit Atlanta with 4 snowflakes. Blizzard attack is equally as weak. It has the same amount of wonky blizzard snowflakes, while it attacks by appearing behind and then shooting, one going upward, one going downward at an angle, and the other 2 just kind of shooting across. It's a little weird. The Master of Wind is up next. It almost feels like this game is pointing out how dire it is for these robots. Lose, and it's off to the recycling bin. That's the terrible, horrible truth of Mega Man. He isn't necessarily fighting for everlasting peace. No, he's trying to avoid the scrap heap. Anyway, this stage is fairly meh to me. The use of air or being up in the air isn't as strong here. Kind of gives me Gyro Man vibes from Mega Man 5, and I know there's been people to point out the similarities between the two games. Anywho, it's here, but it's more blotches rather than fully throughout. The tune may be the weakest of the Robot Masters, but it's not grating. As for the fight, it's similar to another Robot Master, Centaur Man, and lacks fight. How he's considered so strong is beyond me. Windstorm is like Bubble Lead, the only neat difference being how it can cause robots to be carried upward off stage. Because fire wasn't specific enough, we get an Arabic-themed stage rife with oil that can instant-kill when it's inflamed. Other than that, it's a bit lacking in much challenge from either platforming or a fighting standpoint. There's not a lot of moving robots in this stage. I like the theme though, it's a really, really good one. The fight might be one of the tougher ones of the Robot Masters, which really isn't saying much this time around. Keep a moderate distance away and he's toast. Flame Blaster reminds me of the fire sub-weapon from the platforming Castlevania games. Sometimes it'll just bounce off of robots, but it punks on anything it can damage. Though the Buster works absolutely fine for pretty much the whole game, this weapon can add enough punch to get through the slightly sturdier foes that come around this time. Mega Man also gets the Rush Power Adapter here. It's a nice alternative to the Buster, can clear new paths, but not allowed to slide, and has a limited reach. If you wanted to give yourself a little bit more of a challenge, go for this. Nods to Mega Man 2 with a Woodman-esque sort of stage. It's alright, except those springs, but even then, they're not that awful. This tune may be my favorite of the Robot Masters. I don't know, there's something about it that works for me. As for the fight, this one is very uninspiring. This is like a lazy Shadow Man or something. He shields up, gets bored, jumps around, and fires. Plant barriers, a shield weapon, But we also obtain the Rush Jet Adapter. Great. Sure, it makes things very easy, but I've always had a soft spot for it. I blame the neat cover, seeing it as a kid. It always got to me. Now it's a shift to the Weapons of the Warriors division of these Robot Masters, and first up we're going with Tomahawk Man stage. It's alright. The stage's theme gives me more of a Mega Man 4 vibe, and that sunset background partway through is gorgeous. It still floors me every time I see it. I'm like, this was on an NES. That's cool. A shame, though, it only lasts for a moment and doesn't net you a lot of goodies. There's a little secret side path that you go vertically and skip out on it and you miss out on it, which makes me sad. But better than leaving it up there where some people might not see it. I get it. Speaking of goodies, here's where you can get an energy balancer from Proto Man, just because this is where the stages start to split and are only available if you have the rush adapters needed. Not like you absolutely need to obtain Beat, but it is a bit of a bummer that after he came roaring while chirping in mightily in Mega Man 5, he gets caged and really doesn't have much use. The fight's not too bad. Tomahawk Man has 2 attacks to watch for and will leap at you. It's about as tough as Flame Man, I'd say. Silver Tomahawk, though it curves upward after it's fired, is the weapon to slice and dice the latter game bosses, particularly wily. Next up is the Aquatic Adventures of Centaur Man stage. From the boring tune to the wonky color palette, we have maybe the longest stage. Joy. It's not that it's terrible, and has you having to master those mid-jumps in the water with the ceiling spikes that some of them are pretty fond of, and it always seems to be one of those things they sprinkle in, particularly once you get to the wily stages. A lot of times it's like, here's the mid-jump. You know you've mastered Mega Man when you've mastered the mid-jump. There's a neat bit a little over halfway with water ebbing above. I wish there was more of it. It's not too long, but that's a nice little concept. The fight is a slower version of Windman's, where you can be frozen in place momentarily. It's not too troublesome. Centaur's flash just blinks and some of the enemies just go out of existence. Kinda cool. Okay, so no clue why he's in the capital of science, but it's okay. It's got some heavy Dr. Doom implications with the castle theme, or is this bit strictly more magical? Anyway, I like the stage a good deal. It's almost got vibes of an early Dr. Wily sort of stage, though it could do without the bouncy room near the end. Enjoyable tune as well for the stage. Not too difficult. The fight's something. The shield provides protection if you strictly use the Buster, which does does make the fight a little more fun, if longer. That depends on if Nightman ever swings that mace of his. Night Crusher is like Cutman's weapon from Mega Man 1, but less belabored in its movement. Last up, with a nice image of Mount Fuji, pinning it near Shizuoka, Japan. Cool. As for the stage, it has 2 separate breaks, so you could pretty much end up playing an entirely different level for a sizable portion of it, which is something I wish was done more often. The tune is good, though a little on the forgettable side. As for the fight, I don't know what they were thinking by having him be completely vulnerable after firing off the spear tip. Seems like a huge flaw there for Yamato Man. Anyway, Yamato's spear is pretty meh, and the slight angling that's alternating between up and down is annoying. And there it is. That's the 8 super tough new Robot Masters this time around. Time to face Mr. X. So 4 stages of a new baddie with his own castle sort of place that looks like a rejected Mystery Science Theater 3000 robot looking for work. Anyway, I really like this tune. Plus the look of this first stage puts so many to shame. I dig the assault on the building that looks more like a skyscraper than a castle, at least up close. With a secret quick detour, it's an easy one. The boss can be annoying, as I feel like the Blue Bomber can get stiff-legged and eat jump inputs. Other than that, it's a nice start, and that might be just me. This game does feel like the jump input gets lost sometimes. Now, I know playing this on Steam with a Legacy Collection using controller and stuff, there's times where it feels like the D-pad is not the greatest. It's embarrassing, but it's not a surprise. Something that I notice, particularly when it comes to the Mega Man games, is that there's this tendency for it to jump or slide when I do not want to do either one. More so slide than jump. You just have to be careful, or at least I do. I don't know if I'm just cursed with bad input from a D-pad and whatnot. That's what happens. Yay. Anywho, stage 2 is like 40 seconds long. Why does it feel that short? This wall-hugging boss is annoying, and really the only thing that works against it is the Silver Tomahawk. This boss is probably the only one that makes using the Buster a bit of an issue. Stage 3 is a bit tougher with platforming, spikes, and enemies all around. It can be tricky, however the boss is a lazy metal that decided to drive a vehicle with a weakness to cold. Stage 4 offers a split route with a quicker bit dealing with more cowboy robots that can catch you off guard in a bad spot if you're not being careful. The last portion can be rough too, or cheesed with beat. Probably the only time that you can really use beat and be like, yeah. The fight with Mr. X goes about as exciting as seeing failed being spelled incorrectly, and then the reveal that he was actually Wily all along. Dun dun dun. Well, the place looks like it's out of an 80s cartoon, so that checks out. The tune is great here as well, and has this somber finality to it. I dig it. The first stage is fairly short, and the falling portions can stick you if you're not prepared. The first boss isn't tough, but be ready to be mad. Sometimes the hits don't go through, which makes for a random time. Or fun. Just remember fun as an acronym. Stage 2 is icy and I like it. Wily forgot to pay his heating bill, but I don't necessarily blame him with inflation. Sneaking through one side, the ice goes away and reveals a very short stage again. The boss is another roller, which is a bit flating and easy to blitz through. Stage 3 starts off somewhat rough with water and spikes and fans, then it's to the refights. Stage 4 has a small portion with Eddie just waiting there like Data at the end of Mega Man Legends 1. Anyway, the final fight with Wily is a joke, evidently pulling his punches and waiting to deck you in Mega Man 7, but the final boss theme is crunchy good at least. Wily finally goes to jail, the end. And so you may be wondering, I am a little bit more tepid in how I talk about this one. Why do I like this one so much, even though it is so easy? For me, I think it's because it has so many of those memorable tones. It has the new rush adapter, even if it's slow in changing. It has the energy balancer, some great stage sets. It's also a quick game, perhaps the best one for beginners as well. Plus, you can use it as a start to get the hang of only using the Buster. For me, there's a lot of times where I will go for a long stretch of time not playing any of the Mega Man games, and then when I get into them to sort of knock off the rust, I think this is a great first game to do it. It's not going to be too frustrating, it's just a quick jaunt. I mean, some people might not like it, so you can tell that because of how short these stages are, they're tight. They're not trying to do too much to trick you or to trip you up. They're just like, here's some stages, go through them. In a month, you're going to have Mega Man X. boom. And I think in the States, Mega Man X actually came out first, and then Mega Man 6 came out for the NES like 3 months later. Contextually, I get that what's going on with why the game came out the way it does. Does it excuse it for some of those, some people would say, shortcomings? No, for me, it didn't seem like shortcomings, and it works. It's just a tight experience, fun all around, and honestly, that's what game's all about, right? Having fun.